All you check it.
No, I've had it since we had lunch.
Oh,
It's not done, but it's staying near it.
John cut.
Chug. Now it's done.
Now it's done.
This is second.
Meshburger?
No, other one.
Oh, the twins.
They might be observing.
Casey, that daughter.
Yeah, that one's way better videos.
Oh, Sally.
Sally, thank you.
They went to me and I was like, I don't know.
Yes.
Sorry.
What is it? Oh.
And she usually works in the morning.
Probably can't find a parking spot. That's probably what happened.
We'll see how great it.
I would like.
She seems.
Oh, yes.
Fun sounds, right?
It's fun. It's like I have to deal with the aftermath.
That's.
Dr. Clay, Dr. Clay, it's stuck.
Oh, yes, of course.
Just tell me
it's
when it's
stuck.
time to start.
I think we have one more thing.
Okay, I'm just getting ready.
Yes. A tried and true stuck mouthpiece. I have done that once or twice in my life.
As a focus.
I play trombone.
Okay, I didn't know if you were
I studied
assuming
trombone.
other kids' instruments, just.
I studied trombone.
Yeah,
you've
been around the bend.
It was like,
How-
I'm trying to get it out.
How many junior high kids do this? Say all of them, all of them. So,
We did.
yeah. Okay,
I was like, if you do that,
I'm like, this sounds fun.
so you're a trombone player.
yes.
Sunday afternoon, I was at orchestra rehearsal down in Garden City. And
I said, that's where we're from.
there you go. So at the college there, we used their rehearsal space, and conductor's working with the strings and says, okay, and I just want it to kind of shimmer, but you know, when we get to this point, I really need you to be on target with the tempo, all right? Before that, it doesn't really matter until the trombones come in with the melody. And I piped up and said, nothing matters until the trombones come in. That stopped rehearsal for a couple of minutes. So, but that's what trombone players
Oh,
do.
yeah, that's right.
They do it really well too.
Yeah.
She won't be here. She's a doctor.
Okay, because she's got a pretty important part.
All right, we'll go ahead and start then. This is Charlie Fraley, my father-in-law, who in, I guess, multiple levels of retirement. Taking on repairing instruments. The two kind of reminder things or connecting the dots. When Mr. Hendricks, the principal from Dyke, talked, and we had a discussion about you're a new teacher, you need equipment, he said, like, hey, you know, if you put in time to get an inventory and whatever, I would encourage you, one, asking, like, saying, hey, if you got me these tools that would help me maintain what's here, that's a really pretty easy ask. And it's also, if you go to a principal and say, hey, I really looked at this one and these issues we need to send off to get repaired, that shows a lot more investment than, you know, oh, I just need whatever. So I think most principals be like, you know, if you spend this little bit of money to help me, it'll save a lot in the long run. That's a thing they like to hear. But
A lot.
anyway, I'll let you go ahead and start, and please ask
Okay.
questions. We are attempting to record it, which, you know, we can in case you get, but also try to make that link available. So, you know, if in the fall when you're like, wait, how do you blank?
Hey, can we move this over here?
Yes.
That would be, I think it'd be a little easier. Okay, hi, I'm Charlie. I started playing in the band when I was in 5th grade, like most people do. I started on clarinet. A couple of years later, learned oboe, and that was my primary for a long time. Found out clarinet and oboe uses the same muscles differently, and it hurts. So I learned to play trombone, which uses a whole different set of muscles. So no, it was cool. I could play oboe in concert band, march with the trombone, and play, you know, jazz band and whatever. 4, 5, 6 years ago, they didn't have any trumpet players coming up in the school where my wife was teaching. She was the band director. So I bought a trumpet and learned how to play it. If you can play one horn, you can play any of them. Just get a fingering chart and a method book and get started. Because you know music. Anyway, what we're going to talk about, and I'm going to go pretty fast, is what the 5th graders broke. Things you're likely to run into. One of the things, the first thing I would recommend, if you go to your school district and tell them, I can save us a lot of money if you spend 30, 40, whatever, for a mouthpiece puller. All right, mouthpieces get stuck. Most times you can grab it and give it a little twist, it'll come right out. I have ruined lead pipes trying to twist them out too hard. Don't do that. Mouthpiece puller, it's real simple. It doesn't look like it, but you just drop that over the top of the lead pipe and tighten it in so it grabs right there at the beginning of the lead pipe. Fix. There we go. Get around there. I can get it turned the right direction. Why is that not working? Anyway, drop it in, get the mouthpiece set in there like that, and then just turn these, alternate left, right, left, right, left, right, and it'll pop that mouthpiece right out. These run, I think I bought this one for 30 bucks a few years ago. They're not really expensive. They will save your band program. A lot of times also, they'll, oh gee, I dropped my mouthpiece. And it will end up not being round. Really cheap, you can get a mouthpiece mandrel that'll work on any brass mouthpiece. Just drop it in there, give it a good little twist. Get either a rawhide mallet or a canvas mallet. Do not use a hammer. Don't put metal on metal. But if you get one of these, tap it around, give it another little twist, tap it some more, and you can look and see if there's a gap in there. Give it a little twist, give it a little tap, and all of a sudden, it's round. All right, and all this will really, I mean, as long as you've got air sealing, you know, you don't have a leak, it's not going to be a huge deal, except it disrupts the airflow, makes it harder, increases resistance. It's just not good for the kid. So anyway, the other thing on a trumpet we'll get to in a little bit. Most important stuff first. This will save you. This is a spring hook. There's a large side for saxophone, clarinet, and a small side for flute, piccolo, and oboe, different things. On a flute, for instance, if you're not familiar with it, you can see there are a lot of little springs right here, little needle springs. This key, this is a trill key, and that key operates that pad right there, okay? If that spring is unhooked, all of a sudden now, you've got a real problem because one stays open all the time, the other one doesn't work the way it's supposed to, and you're going to have flute players come up to you and say, it's not working. Take your spring hook, look, just put it right back where it belongs. That's all there is to it. And all of a sudden you've repaired an instrument. Woohoo!
Yay.
Yeah, right? But you say, I can fix that. Let me show you that on a flute. Any of these springs in through here are going to be, sometimes you got to really work to get in at them. Problem comes with the clarinet on the C and E flat key, these two keys right here, those springs that are in there, you can't put them in. Well, this horn you can. Most horns, there's not enough clearance to get that spring under the peg that it goes in, okay? You have to take that key off. You need a screwdriver. Now, on a clarinet, most of the screws are attachment screws or rods, okay? This screw here holds this rod in place, which is this entire ring series, all right? This, on the other hand, is an adjustment screw. This is on top of your A flat key, all right? If you notice, when you press your A key, it opens the A flat key as well, right? However, if this is one of two places on any musical instrument where you want some lost motion, you don't want to be able to press this key and immediately the A flat key comes up with it. You want to have just that little bit of maybe a ½ millimeter of lost motion. Otherwise, it's going to get a little tighter and a little tighter and a little tighter. And all of a sudden, that A flat key is lifted up off the tone hole just the least little bit, and it makes the horn sound terrible. They can't play. Notes don't come out. So for that adjustment, you use this screw right here, and you go in 1/16 of a turn increments. You put it in, you turn it, I mean, you think about turning it, take the screwdriver out and try it again. And once you get it adjusted correctly, you're good to go. On a clarinet, that's the big adjustment screw. On a flute, all these screws back alongside here, 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 and there's another one, no, that's a cork, okay. And here, all these are adjustment screws that adjust what happens when you press a key down. Now, if you look, when you press your F key down, right here, the F sharp pad goes down and the B pad goes down. So when they get these, if you look at a horn, you press the F key and the F sharp doesn't go all the way down, nothing on the right hand is going to work because air's coming out of the F sharp pad before it gets, farther down the tube. Same thing applies up here. Once you get these two adjusted correctly, I'm not telling you to adjust them. What I'm telling you is don't let your kids monkey around with the horns. Tell them, okay, if this up here is loose, this is a rod that holds your flute, your trill keys in place. If that's loose, tighten it up a little bit. If you tighten it up too much, the key won't work. So make it tight enough to hold it and then back it off just a little bit. What I like to do, especially with clarinets, is I'll tighten it down here. Let's see. Yeah. I'll tighten it up until it's so tight that it won't work anymore. And then just back it off about a half turn and you're good to go. Clarinets, like I said, almost all the ones on clarinets are attachment screws as opposed to adjustment. So you want to make sure if you got one that looks like it's falling out, screw it back in. And tell your kids to check that stuff. But a spring hook will save you. Get that, just rehook the springs on the flute, especially flutes. For some reason, they keep coming off. Oh, yes, clarinet. One way you can keep horns out of the shop is teaching your kids to properly assemble a clarinet. All the clarinet players, yeah. Okay, if you notice, there's a little bridge key right here. And when you press this ring down, that little bridge key goes up. You'll notice on the lower side, you've got a bridge key right here. When you press those rings, that bridge key goes up. When you assemble the instrument, press down on these keys, on this ring to lift that, but not on this. Grab it down low and twist it into position. And then all of a sudden, when you press down here, it closes that pad right there, which it's supposed to. If this gets jammed because they're grabbing a hold here and, and not there, and that's a big problem. Or if your kids decide, ooh, I like the top of yours and the bottom of mine, let's swap. They do that. I've gotten horns in and say, oh, neither one works. Well, I keep records of horns I work on. No, that doesn't go with that. Now I can adjust it and make it work, but you shouldn't have to. Anyway, make sure when they're assembling it, hold the ring keys down on the top section, not on the bottom. That'll lift the top out of the way. You can put it in. Use nice, gentle motions to get that put together. Okay, now let's talk for a minute about the other place you want lost motion. When you're putting a saxophone together, you'll notice this just goes in and you tighten it down. Some sax players like to have it like this, straight in front of them. Some turn it off to the side, like that. Turn the mouthpiece a little and play that way. If you'll notice, this octave mechanism that operates the neck octave key, if you turn this to the middle, there's a gap. If you turn it to the side, there is no gap. How does your kid want to play the horn? Because if you have it like this, it's real hard to see, but that pad is not seated on that tone hole. All right? They're not going to be able to play anything that doesn't involve that key being open because air is leaking out of it. Let's say this is the case. They want to play it like this, and that's touching. What you can do is take it, hold it in place to keep that pad down, and bend it with your thumbs. Just flex it. Don't grab a pair of pliers and take after it. But just use your thumbs, flex it down a little bit, and then put it back on. You put it back on, and all of a sudden, you've got some lost motion. Because you can see that octave lever actuator starts to move before the key moves. That's the AA flat adjustment on the clarinet and the neck octave is the only places you want lost motion. Every place else you want it to be nice and tight. Because a sax, much like a flute, when you push the F key down, the F sharp pad goes down and the B pad goes down. If they're not all working together, you got a problem. Right? Also, this is the coolest thing about saxes. You can tell real quick if you got a problem. It's playing for me, right? You can hear the notes. You can hear those. Close them. Does that ring? Yeah. Pads are seating well for the most part. Now, there are two places on a saxophone that you're going to have real issues. All the moisture in the horn goes to the bottom, right? Yeah. This is your E flat key right here. That's the pad right there. This gets to be the nastiest, dirtiest, most corroded, moldy, full of Skittles and Mountain Dew. Yeah, that right there. It's terrible. That is where you're going to have your most trouble. What I recommend, if you can talk your kids into buying a thing, you can buy key leaves, is what it's called, but you can also use a wooden or a rubber wedge. When you put your horn away for the night, stick that little wedge under there to keep that key open. If you keep that open, it air dries. Oh, yeah. You should also think about putting one over here that will keep your G sharp key open. Right there. I don't know if I can figure out how to keep it open. Anyway, that right there is your stickiest key. A lot of times you're going to have kids come in, it's not playing, it's sticking. And every one of you has exactly the tool you need in your wallet. Take a dollar bill.
Oh, no.
I think I might.
Oh, wait a minute. You're music ed majors. You don't have any money. I'm sorry. But
Counterfeit money from like
if it starts to stick, just open it up, slide your dollar in there, and pull it out. Do that 2 or 3 times. Do it on any of these keys. If they start sticking a little, just put it in, let it close, and pull it out. That'll pull some of that crud off there, and then spend that dollar first. Get it out of your wallet. 'Cause- Okay. Oh, let me show you something else that's going to be a real handy thing. Sometimes, and I keep turning my back on the camera. Sorry about that. This stuff here, plumber's tape, Teflon tape, terrific stuff. On a trumpet, you got spit valves, pardon me, water keys. They're not spit valves, they're water keys. If that pad comes off and you've got a concert in 15 minutes, take a little Teflon tape, wrap it around there, and that'll seal it. That'll work. If you've lost the pad entirely, cram some Teflon tape in the hole, wrap it around there one time, and now it works. It'll get you through the concert, okay? Same thing with it. No, I've got the wrong kind of water key on there. Anyway, it will also work. I've done it. I had a broken trill rod. The rod itself got messed up, and they were 2 days before a concert. I didn't have time to fix it. So what I did, they were going to play trills anyway. They were sixth graders. You lift those up, wrap some tape around there, seal the holes with Teflon tape. Work like a champ. The nice thing about Teflon tape, it does not damage the finish. Okay, masking tape, duct tape, I pulled both of those off. Those will eat away at the finish and just ruin a horn. Painter's tape is okay. In fact, I had she actually plays professionally. Her middle tenon cork right here had come off, and she had a concert to play. She wrapped some painter's tape around it and jammed it together. It didn't leak. Played the concert. She gave it to me. Now, when you go to a repair shop, just so you'll know, they normally charge anywhere from $50 to $150 to open the case and look at the horn. And some places will look at it and give you an estimate for no charge. A lot of places, if you take it in and say, I need this fixed, they open the case, $50, $75, whatever. And it'll take you 3 or 4 days, weeks to get it back. I don't know, do you guys know Veronica Aldana?
Yes.
Okay, she brought me, she's in Dighton now, that's where I live. She's the band director there, she's doing great. I love that girl. Did you know she just got engaged?
Yes.
Yeah. She brought me a couple of, she's standing there in my living room. Well, this one has this problem and that problem. I said, well, okay, fine, I'll take a look at it. I said, so what'd you do over the spring break? Oh, we went to Vegas and then we stopped by the Grand Canyon, and I'm really glad we did. You know Veronica. So anyway, she brought me one. This tenon cord needed to be replaced. It was leaking. And when you put a horn together, you'll notice on any of the joints, if it wobbles, you're not getting a good seal. This one doesn't wobble because it's mine and I fixed it. But you can put a tenon cork in. I fixed hers in less than 10 minutes. It'll take you 3.5 hours to drive to the shop. Well, 2 hours to drive to Concordia. 3.5 to Wichita? 3, 2.5. Sensenese does extremely good work. Concordia, Tom's Music House in Concordia. The girl there used to be a middle school band director, and she got into instrument repair. She's fabulous. I took her this horn. I wanted somebody to do it really well. I figured I have the pros repad it. Nope, this is an Alt, A-U-L-T, Supreme, made in Paris. It's really a nice horn. I got it for under $50. It was nasty. So I took all the keys off, polished them all up. She would not repad it because it's an off-brand from what she works with. It's hard to get parts for. Key for your students: don't let them buy Mandinis. Don't let them buy Barzooms. Jupiter does a pretty good job nowadays. Yamaha, made in Japan, is wonderful. Yamaha made in China, not so much. You get a box Stradivarius from China, It's not a box Stradivarius, folks. Tell your kids, Bundy, Selmer, Kahn. If they really want to step up on the brass instruments, Getzen. That's what I play. I love Getzen. Terrific company. But get the common, most, Vito clarinets. LeBlancs are good. Get all these. Bundys, if you can find a Bundy, it will last a lifetime and then some. Bundys are tanks. But if they buy, they are. You can beat those things up. Yeah.
It was used when I got it.
The trombone I got was it's a Kahn subsidiary. It's called Pan Am. My uncle played it when he was in high school, and I'm old. And then I got it and played it in high school and through the Army, and played it a long time until I bought that one from Goodwill in Seattle online, $31 for the horn. Yeah, well, it was a mess. So I spent twice as much on the case as I did for the horn. Okay. Now, while we're talking about tenon corks, make sure that they are greased. Use a little cork grease on them. It doesn't take much. When you put a little bit on there, just put a little cork grease on it, especially you vocal guys that have never done this before. Just put a little bit on there and then rub it in really good. You want to get it nice and warm, okay? And once it gets a little bit warm, then you know it's working its way in. Cork grease will deteriorate the contact cement that holds the cork in place. So the more you put on, the quicker your tenon cork's going to wear out. You just want it smooth enough so that you can put the piece on there and it's nice and solid with no wiggle. That's all you need. It shouldn't be bink, 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 bink. There should be a little, especially since you use this to tune the clarinet, you're going to back it out a little, try to make it a little flatter because, let's face it, most of your clarinet players aren't that sharp to start right. No, they are too sharp. They have to back out a little. That's it. I knew I was saying that wrong. Okay. Let's talk for a second about trombone slides. Okay, trombone slide, how to oil it and what to oil it with. If you are talking about elementary students, if you're talking about middle school students, I highly recommend any of the commercially available valve and slide oils. When I'm fixing horns for elementary school, middle school, this is what I put on the valves of trumpets. This is what I put on slides. I'm not going to put it on mine. But if you notice, this section of a trombone slide is slightly wider than this part. This is the only part that actually touches inside here. So when you go to put oil on a slide, you don't start here and go all the way down because this part of the slide never touches anything. Just put a few drops down here. I'd put 3 or 4 drops on and then work it back and forth, in and out, until it's fully coated on the inside of your outer tube. Then do the same thing for the lower side, and then put it all back together. There are other options. This is a slide cream. What I used for years was Pond's Cold Cream. Do they still make that? Has anybody ever heard of it?
I know trombone.
Trombotine. You buy a tube of trombotine, that will last you a lifetime.
Yeah, I still have mine. I've had it for like 4 years.
Oh, you'll have it 40. This cream, you put just the least little amount you can imagine on your fingers. Yeah, I did. Okay. And then put it down here. And just work it in and out, work it in and out. And the little dab that I got on my fingers is all you need. Now, by itself, it's not great. It's really not. What every trombone player needs is a bone bottle, right?
So
It is. But you work that in just like that. Get your bone bottle and use either purified or distilled water. Don't use tap water, it's too hard, get all kinds of minerals. But just spray that on there. And the water is what makes it slick, but it rides on top of that cream that you put in there. It's all right, I fixed it once before.
I was gonna say, it's like, we can fix it. It's fine.
There.
It's fine.
Yeah, this is actually, yeah, that's in real good shape. I could play it.
It was. One more time, let's see.
Now,
Oh, it's good.
I will tell you, when I got this, and you can see it, the crook was crushed. I mean, it was smashed. You're going to get that. Kids are going to drop it. Yeah. So that can be fixed, but it's extensive. You have to unsolder this. Then you can get that re-rounded. Then you got to line everything back up and get it exactly perfect and straight and resolder it, which is what I've done twice on this horn. Also, we talked about the water keys here that have a cork in them. Yep. This is a different kind of water key. This is called an Amato water key. Just push it and it comes out the bottom end. You blow it out. This is the old one. There's a little clip that holds that back plate in place. The newer models, screw in. Brilliant. Whoever decided to put some threads on it, use a screwdriver. But these are real easy. To keep these lubed, just open it up, put a couple of drops of valve oil in there and work it. And you can actually twist this and turn that little cylinder in there. And that'll keep those lubricated really well. Okay, flute. One of the other things you're going to run into is getting this spaced correctly and keeping your flute fairly well in tune. Any flute players here? No? Okay. Okay, this is a flute cleaning rod. If you notice, everybody always looks at this end. Look at the other end. There's a little mark right there. Okay? Ideally, when you replace the head cork, there's a cork in here. You slide this in, you should see that mark pretty much in the middle of the embouchure or the tone hole, the blowhole. I don't play flute, so I'm not sure what you call it. Yes, but that's how you get it initially set. All right. To get a flute properly in tune, oh, that's already got one in there. To get it properly in tune, if it's playing way sharp all the time, you loosen the crown like that and push it in. And there's a cork in there with a metal disc on the bottom of it, and that'll just shove that, you know, or that's if it's playing flat, you'll want to do that because you want to make the area smaller. If it's playing sharp, you want to make it bigger, so you tighten this, and there's a screw in there that'll pull that cork farther up. All right. Head corks are fairly easy to fix, replace. Maybe once every 20 years, you'll need to replace one. If it was done right to start with, it shouldn't be a big deal. But if you look in there and you can't see the mark in there, then your kid's been messing around with it. And, you know, it's time to have a talk with them. Okay, one of the, trumpet valves. When you get your kids to lube their horn, okay, let them pull out, yes, say it loud, one valve at a time. If they pull all three valves out, they're going to get them mixed up. Now, a lot of horns will have, especially Yamahas and Khans, will have written on them the valve number. This one does not. This one's written somewhere else, maybe. Anyway, pull out one at a time, lube it, put it back in. My wife and I disagree heartily on this. She says 2 to 3 drops, don't make a mess. Nah. Coat it, put it in there. It'll leak out, you know? That's why you have holes in the bottom. The excess will leak out all over the carpet. It'll make a mess. If you notice, Every trumpet is different. Well, all the different brands are different. This is a DEG made by Donald Getson. But if you look on the valve guide, there's a little nub right there on that little plastic piece. That little nub actually goes through into that slot. So it holds the valve in one position. That does not revolve around. It stays in the same place. If you look down inside the valve casing, there's a little slot that will fit into. After you lube your valve, drop it in place, gently turn it until it clicks. Then you're in place. Then just screw it down and you're good to go. Now the air on a trumpet, every trumpet, I've never seen one other, cornet may be different, but every trumpet I've ever seen, the air goes into the third valve first, and then to the second, then to the first, and then on out the bell. But to make sure you got it right, it works. You can blow air through it, it works. If you get it in the wrong spot, or if you get the valves messed up, the valves will fit, but if you notice, the holes are just slightly different. So you got little Johnny, and he's not real sure what he's doing, but he's, by golly, he got it lubed. There we go. Air won't even go through it. So that's when you got to start playing detective, figure out what valve goes where, how does it go in, you know, and how can we teach him not to screw it up again. It's a real easy fix, not hard at all. I would encourage them and you, oh, that's another thing too. I can use a little work on that one. Yeah, I bought this horn pretty cheap too. I only bought 2 expensive horns in my life. The oboe I bought back in my horn's older than most of your parents. I bought that horn in 1970. And, right? Yeah. I bought a brand new Selmer Paris oboe in 1970 for $1,250. In 1970, that was huge. I just did a couple of months ago buy a brand new trombone, orchestral trombone. I paid $1,300 for it. It is marvelous. I love this horn. I'm not bringing it here. But anyway, one thing I would recommend, you got to be careful with this stuff. If you can get them to loosen those every now and then, because a lot of oil will get down in there. Oh, and please make sure they use valve oil, not Crisco, not olive oil, not WD-40. Yeah, just, oh, it's a mess. And if they bring it to you and say, my dad tried to fix, oh dear, charge them extra for that. Okay, a couple of things real quick. If you'll notice, the second valve slide sticks up. When you put it in the case or lay it down on a table, do not lay it with that valve down. A lot of times they'll lay it in a chair with that valve down, and then somebody will sit on it. Now, what'll happen, it might not show a whole lot of damage. This one, you can see it has been dented, and I took the dent out of it, but it got hit, it got dropped. That will keep this valve from working because this part here is hard soldered on with silver solder, and it will bend it out around just enough to keep that from working. So when you're teaching, that goes up. Even when you put it in the case, that goes up. Just not too long ago, had another one. There was no damage that I could see, but that second valve wasn't working. They'd take their music book, toss it in, all right? Yeah. And over time, it pressed it just enough to jam that second valve. So when you see them doing things like that, these are just ways to keep horns out of the shop. Euphoniums, you might not have any euphonium players the first couple of years when they start, but once you get to junior high, high school, you might get them. On the valves, They're much like a trumpet valve, except the spring is normally underneath the piston. Spring goes in first, piston, line it up, screw it in. There's a valve guide on Yamahas. There's a valve guide on top that sits in. And if you notice on a trumpet, the button comes off. All right. The valve stem also unscrews out of the valve. Not so on a euphonium. The button and the stem are all one piece, and they go down into the valve. There's a white plastic valve guide in there that keeps it lined up so all the holes line up when they're supposed to. There are two holes on top of the piston, a small one and a large one. The small one is where that valve guide, there's a little nub in there that fits in there. The large one's a vent, just an air vent. So when you push it down, you don't fight the air pressure to get it down and back up. Every time somebody brings me a euphonium, this doesn't work. That's the only problem I've ever run into with euphoniums. So if you have a player with euphonium and it doesn't work, take those valves, check the valve guide, make sure that little nub is in the small hole, not the large hole. Yes. If you have a clarinet and you're not sure what the problem is, the easiest way to check, stick a cork in it. Close the rings and holes and blow. Do you hear air leaking out? If you don't hear air leaking out, your pads are properly seated, okay? You can do the same thing on the bottom section. It just takes a bigger cork. Now, if you don't have a cork, cover it with your hand. Close the rings, close your B flat key. I got a problem. Did you hear that? Yeah, I can see it. It's right there. My E flat key's not closing all the way. That's something for me to work on. Cool. I don't play clarinet anymore. So I've got it. I know how. I just haven't done it for a long time. Excellent. I can do that. Anyway, but that's how you find out. If you're not sure, stick that in there. Where is it blowing the tissue? And that way you can isolate it and find out, do we have a leak problem or do we have something else? If it's a leak and you really want to be ambitious, go for it. And then give me a call and I'll fix what you broke. Finally, saxophone, clarinet. Let's do it on a clarinet first. And what time is it? Are we almost done?
Class time's at 1:15.
Oh, we got all kinds of time. All right. You got nothing better to do but listen to me? Okay. Let's take a clarinet. If you look, especially, I don't even need the top section on it. There is a little thing underneath here, and it's called a crow's foot, okay? This device allows you to use this key, which it doesn't do anything. When you press the C key will close this pad. When you close the B key, you'll notice the C key also closes. That's because this key engages that crow's foot down under there, and the B flat key closes both the B and the B flat, okay? Now, both of these engage the crow's foot. You will notice on this one, the cork in there is not level all the way across, because you want, when you close the B flat key, both of these should close at the same time, at the same pressure. If this one closes and this one's still sticking up a little bit too high, then perhaps something else is open. Take a little piece of sandpaper, stick it in there, hold it down, pull it out, and then check it again. That's how you adjust cork. You're going to find this real helpful. I don't know about this sax. Yeah. If you look, there's cork right here, here, and here. There's little pieces of cork in there, and that is what adjusts that rod. If these keys do not close the F sharp key, your cork's not thick enough. If you push the key, the F sharp key closes, and now all of a sudden your D key is not closing all the way, your cork's too thick. Stick that in there, like that. Hold it down and give it a pull, and then check again. That's how hard it is to adjust this stuff. If you have a, let's say your mouthpiece won't go into the barrel for whatever reason, it just is too much cork. Grab hold of it, wrap it around there, give it a little sanding, stick it back, put some more grease on it. Try putting some grease on it first, but then if it's too much, you can use a little sandpaper to wrap around there. Give it a couple little twists, little grease, it'll work. If it doesn't, give me a call. What else can you use sandpaper for? I use this stuff all the time. I've got normally 100 for roughing out. When I put a new tenon cork on, use the 100 to rough it out. And then for finish work, 400 is perfect. It's wonderful stuff. Oh, yes. Tools that you should maybe think about asking your district to provide you. A mouthpiece puller is first. Get that first. I can't tell you how many mouthpieces you're going to pull for junior high kids. Well, and elementary and high schoolers, some of them. It's also handy to have either a rawhide or a canvas mallet. The other thing you can do, if you can't get your mouthpiece puller right away and that's jammed in there, again, don't use a hammer, use canvas. This is actually just wrapped canvas, and that's rawhide. You just and tap it, and it'll come right out. This will not damage the finish. If these valve caps are tight, just work at an angle and get them loose. Take them off, clean them out. You're hitting it. Yeah, I know, it sounds great, doesn't it? Yeah. Whack it with a hammer. But don't use a big claw hammer, carpenter's dead, no. Now I got a couple of nice sets of screwdrivers, different sizes. Some are really good for adjustments, some are good for reaching hard to reach places. But if you wanted to get something like this, that you can stick in your pocket or stick in your case, or, you know, that's fairly small. That will fix most of your, if you've got, one of these screws popping out, just get something like this that you can carry with you, stick in your briefcase. Do people backpack? I'm working. I'm really trying. I'm old, and I'm trying hard here. But yeah, that'll fit down in there, and you can tighten this stuff up and keep it going. So the next thing, I guess. Hang on, where'd you have my hand? And order to. Yes. Got all that. Got all that. Okay, just for grins and giggles, since we have a few more minutes, let's go back to trumpets, because most of you trumpet players are alpha types. And you're right, they're real important. Just ask them, they'll tell you. They will. That's like airplane pilots. That's the first thing. I play lead trumpet. That's right. I'm a lead trumpet player. Yeah. Anybody got anything to say at the funeral? I'm a pilot. They do. Pilots. I can tell. Okay, let's take a look at this. This is a little different than what you're going to normally run into. But let's say you want to give your horn a bath. Very good idea. Okay, you don't want the plastic to go in the bath. And normally, that's steel spring, that's okay. If it's copper, don't put it in the bath. And also, you'll notice there's a piece of felt right here. Don't put the felt in the bath. Take all those things off, put your valve stem back on, and you can give this a good wash. Now, they used to sell magical musical soap. A guy marketed this, and he sold it. It was wonderful. It works. And he charged a bunch. If you buy something specifically for music, you're going to pay extra. Just like medical equipment. You know, if you want something medical written on there, you're going to pay twice or 3 times. All right, sidetrack real quick. I used to be a paramedic. That's one of the things I retired from, one of them. I was a flight paramedic actually, I worked for Ellis. I retired from here, from Ellis County. So I've been on this campus several times picking up drunk football players. And what's that? No. I retired from here several years ago. So, but anyway, for intubation practice, you have an airway mannequin and you have your rubber intubation tubes and your laryngoscope. And the idea is you pop it in and practice hitting it right between the vocal cords, right? Except mannequins are made of rubber. These things are made of rubber. It's all rubber. They stick. Laerdal, the company that makes the mannequins, sells a spray, a lubrication spray, specifically designed for this purpose. And it was like $20 a can. And okay, but that's what you use, right? So you can practice your intubations on a mannequin instead of screwing up somebody's vocal cords, right? So anyway, one day the label started peeling off the can. And, oh, okay, let's just get rid of it. And I peeled it off. It was a can of Pam kitchen spray, $3 down at Dillon's.
Wow.
If it says medical on it, you're going to pay a bunch. Same thing with musical. So the magical musical soap, when the guy died, the fellow that worked for him revealed the secret. Half Dawn, half Tide, mixed together. All right? So get a bottle of Tide, the liquid Tide, get some liquid Dawn, mix them together, and then when you go to give a horn a bath, it does a terrific good job. If you really want to cut the grease, soak it in Simple Green. Just get, a couple of gallons of that. Drop these down in there, let them soak for 15, 20 minutes, pull them out, put them in the bath. What you'll want to get is a snake. And if you play brass instruments, you're familiar with that. Trumpet snakes are about that long. Trombone snakes are about that long. And you can go down and get inside all these places. All these slides should come. You see how nice and easy that came off? That's what it's supposed to do. But you can wash those out. That's fairly clean. That looks good. Second valve slide pops right off. You can get in there. If you are going to be really ambitious and teach your trumpet players to use the third valve slide right here, make sure that it doesn't have slide grease on it. The stuff we put on corks, cork and slide grease, use something that's specifically designed for trumpet slides. There are a couple of different things you can buy, different people manufacture them. Because you want this, the idea on a trumpet, when you play a low D flat, you want that pushed out to keep it in tune. Otherwise, it's going to be way sharp. D goes about there, E flat goes about there. Those are the only 3 notes you use it for. You really don't need it for anything else, unless you just want a miniature trombone. And you can do that too. But this needs to be, and it needs to move just really slick. I don't have, this one didn't come with a stop. Most of them will have some kind of stop on it to keep it from falling off. Don't have one on this one. Oh well. Anyway, so we washed our valves. Now we get to put it back together. So you take your valve guide, and if you notice on this particular horn, there's only one slot. So this goes in only one place, slip it in there, and it goes in just like it's supposed to. Drop your spring on top of it. Valve guide goes, or valve stem gets screwed on, and it's back together. This is terribly important. These come in various thicknesses, and you can get cork or felt, either one. The idea being when it comes up, from being depressed, it comes up. These holes line up with the ports. Actually, this first valve. So they'll line up here. You can't see that. So what you do, if you're really interested in it, take your second valve, see what type of felt or cork, what size is in there. I told you this trumpet was a mess when I bought it. But it's better. And I'm going to show you something very cool. You can look in there in the second valve slide and see they don't line up. Now they do. That's how you can tell how far down you need them to go, how much of an adjustment needs to be made. You can put extra cork pieces under here. You can put thicker cork in here to make that work. All right, but line up your second valve, and whatever you do to your second valve to make it right, do that to the other two. You can't see them unless you have like a bore scope or something. But that will line it up and it'll make it work right. Okay, now, and you can see on this horn, there's some battle scars right around in here. When I got this horn, the bell was crushed. And yeah, it works. Well, it does. I can do a lot. I don't make them look new, but I make them work. So my goal personally is to keep instruments in the hands of the kids. All right. So here's my thing to you guys. My phone number is written down here. If you want to stick it in your phone, that's fine. You get out there and you start working. If you have a question, give me a call. My basic rate for brand new band directors is $0. My basic rate for experienced band directors is $0. My basic rate for when a young girl in Ransom dropped the clip on her neck strap, broke. Her saxophone went to the floor, landed on the neck. Yeah, right? So the neck was crushed, not crushed, it was creased pretty bad, dented in. This key was up and going off kind of that direction. The entire octave mechanism here was jaked. The palm keys, the top two palm keys were bent, and this was out of round. The receiver was out of round. This had been, not this one, but her horn had been in her family for a while. It was one of those, like, you played a horn that your son is now playing. And this was a horn that somebody in her family had played and gave to her. She's junior high and she's actually a pretty good player. They were devastated. They went to the band director. How can we get this fixed? Well, it's going to be expensive, but I know a guy. So they called me and I said, yeah, bring it in. I'll take a look at it. 2 days later, I gave it back to her. She played it in pep band that night. She was thrilled. Now, my dentist is going to owe her a thank you card because she brought me a big basket of cookies and candy, and thank you so much. Love the girl. But, okay, music has been really good to me. Like I say, I started playing in 5th grade, played all the way through school, joined the Army, played in an Army band for 3 years. Lifetime member of the Association of Military Musicians. I've been to the reunions and played the concerts. And I now play in Garden City a lot with municipal band, with the civic orchestra. That's me. I was playing euphonium 2 years ago. I was principal trumpet last year, trombone rather. But I was I sat back with Bill Antone on baritone 2 years
I
ago.
love that.
Yeah. Bill's wonderful.
Yeah.
If you guys don't know Bill Antone, and you think I'm old, this guy's older than me. And I think Lawrence is older than both of us. Lawrence, tuba player, stands about 6'15" or something. Yeah. So anyway, so I play a lot, and I love playing, and I've been able to go so many different places, especially when I was in an army band. We traveled all over Europe and played all kinds of great gigs, played some terrible gigs too. Oh yeah, military ceremonies are really not fun. But German beer tents are great fun. So, but it's been really good to me. And I've been really blessed. I've had a really good working career outside of music, which enables me to buy cheap horns or expensive horns and buy the tools and, take the class and do this as a way to give back. So if you guys need it, give me a call. I will answer any question. If I don't know the answer, I'll make something up and you won't know the difference. So if you are interested in instrument repair and you want to just see some people doing the work right, a couple of websites I recommend. Most I don't. YouTube channels. There's a place called the Brass and Woodwind Shop. It's in Burnt Hills, New York. A guy named Art does incredibly good work. And his whole thing is make it work, whatever it is. Well, if it looks stupid, but it works, it ain't stupid. Just, you're going to use tools in a different way than maybe they were intended. If you really want to have fun, there's a character out of Mississippi. His name is Wes Lee. Wes Lee Music Repair. This guy is a nut job. He does some of the best work on horns. He makes them look brand spanking new. He's very aggressive on his dent work, getting the dents out, but he's fun to watch. And like I say, he's just an old boy from Mississippi, and he's fun to listen to. A couple of companies, if you want to buy any of the tools, Fraley is a tool manufacturer, Ferrees. They sell terrific good stuff. It's all expensive. I think this is $30. And I got this from Music Medic. They do primarily saxophone work. I bought a bunch of stuff from J.L. Smith. They do a lot of flute work. Fraley is just an overall instrument repair tool company. Music Medic puts out videos every week, specifically geared towards saxophone. J.L. Smith occasionally does flute stuff. They're all worthwhile. Storer Music, Stohrer. They do sax work. They're worthwhile. Dawkes Music out of England, Dawkes. They do some magnificent good work. It's all very expensive. But you also have guys that will advertise their YouTube, how to clean your trombone correctly. Oh, well, I'll watch that. Maybe I'm pick something up. And it's, some 14-year-old that had his trombone all of 2 years and says, look what I can do with this drill. That might not be the best source of information. So if it's out there on YouTube, that doesn't mean it's right, sadly. And I don't have all the answers. I'm still learning some of this stuff. If you have an interest in it later on, where I learned how to do this was through you ready for this? The Colorado Institute of Musical Instrument Technology. Doesn't that sound great? That's a repair shop in Denver. But they teach. And during COVID, they were teaching online. I retired as a paramedic, flight paramedic, a month before COVID hit. Perfect timing for me. Got out of that mess in a hurry. But, it was terrible. But I had started watching some of these videos, and I'm tired of driving 3.5 hours to drop a horn off, 3.5 hours home, and then 6 weeks later, 3.5 hours to the repair shop, 3.5 hours home to give it back to the kid. When some of this stuff I think I can do, So the class, it was fairly expensive. Took the band director 101 and just basic instrument repair across the board, brass, flute, sax, and clarinet. And you got to pay for the tools. Tools are not cheap, but you get everything you need. And so I took this class, set up my camera on my workbench, and had my, had a microphone hanging there. And the instructor's on his workbench in Denver, and we can see each other, and I can see what he's doing. He can see what I'm doing, and it worked. The really cool thing, if you really want to have fun with this stuff, I bought that trombone for $31. You can buy them cheaper. You can buy trumpets for probably $20. They won't work. You don't need them to. Take it, beat it up, and play with it. See what it takes to fix it. How do you resolder a brace? How much heat can you put on it without tearing up the lacquer, And that's stuff that you just learn by doing. So a lot of this stuff, if you are interested in it, I recommend them. It's a really good school for what it is, for what you learn, and the ability to actually fix horns and keep them in the students' hands. Because as we were talking earlier, if the horn is broken and they can't play it for a couple of weeks, they might never come back. If it's broken and the family can't afford to get it fixed, it could be something very minor. They might not come back to it. And you guys are here because you love music, even the vocalists, You can play the radio. It's cool. So, sorry. Radio, what's that? Yeah, I know. But you're here because you love it. Try to give that love of it to the kids. And what you're doing, I can't tell you how impressed I am with all you guys, and how much respect I have for what you're doing and what you're going to do. So thank you guys for doing what you're doing. I think it's outstanding. So I'm done a little early, Matt, but
there's one point or thing on as far as the class in your district, you might be able to get that counted on your professional development plan.
Yeah.
It's one that whoever does that in your district, maybe a principal, maybe someone else, it might be one of those, hey, this is a little bit non-traditional. It's not in service stage, but there's a decent chance of it. And I've said that a lot of the services, you'll get more value out of that than basically in service. So that's something to keep in mind. Again, like I said, asking a principal to purchase tools when you say, hey, this is going to save us a lot in the long run. That's it. They like things like that. What questions do you have? I mean, you're going to have the question when the fifth grader walks up with
Yeah.
It won't work. Yeah, what do you have any questions? So I guess what I have is, what would be your things of back way slowly, give me a call, don't.
If you can see what it is right away and make just a, hook a spring up or wrap some Teflon tape around the pad to get it through the concert, yeah, do it. Absolutely do it. If you need a pad replaced, give me a call. If you're going to replace a pad, any of these, sax, flute, flute's different because you don't glue them in, except for the trill keys. These two up here and this one right here, they get glued in. All the rest of them are screwed in. There's a little, yeah, I know. There's a, well.
Show you real quick.
If you're going to be using a screwdriver, hold your thumb up against the screw, because otherwise it will fly off and jab you in the hand, and I just dropped a screw. Okay, we'll get it. Okay, see how there's a little gasket and a screw holding that in place? Underneath there, it's shimmed. They're little, like 75 thousandths of an inch, 45 thousandths of an inch paper shims that you stick in there to level that pad. and make sure that it seats perfectly on the hole. Most time-consuming, monotonous, tedious job, and I've done more flutes than I care to think about. But if you lose them, these are, I dropped it somewhere. You know what I keep it? Oh, and this might be handy too. Go to Home Depot or Harbor Freight, spend about $3, get a magnet on a stick. You know, the little telescoping ones. And then you can just run it right around in here. And anyway, but flute pads are not glued in. They just have that
They were just like.
washers. Yeah, I know.
I have a flashlight on and everything, just trying to see some sort of reflection.
Oh, it's dark. It's black.
Oh,
Oh.
Yeah.
So smart now.
I was thinking it was silver. I was like, oh, that won't be too bad. Not on this carpet. Lies.
Found it.
Look at you.
That's such a small screw.
Yeah. You missed it.
What happened?
We did the great screw hunt.
Oh my God.
You missed it, but we found it. You found it. So, okay. What else? Yeah, right. I don't work on percussion. I just don't. I don't do stringed instruments at all, except this summer I bought a bass guitar and I'm learning how to play it. I keep learning. Find something new to do. So
It's like as an educator, that's literally one of my English teacher in high school was like, as an educator, you never stop learning.
right.
It's like she says, I'm still learning things with you guys because
Yeah.
I realized I missed something last year. And this was something that I wish that I would have known because now I can teach it better.
I've been doing music for many years. I learned a new word, and now I can't think of what it was. Ossia, O-S-S-I-A.
I've seen it like,
Yes, you have.
but I don't.
Okay, so you'll have the music written out, and in 2/3 or 3/4 size, either above it or below it, will be an alternate way of playing this passage. Sometimes much easier, sometimes harder, sometimes just different, to get a different feel for it. And Ossia, A space S-I-A, it comes, I think that's Italian for on the other hand, you know, kind of thing. But it became Ossia, and that's a new musical term I just learned yesterday. It was a crossword clue. So I looked it up in the music dictionary, and oh, son of a gun. But it just means an alternate way of playing something. So if they have something that's, you know, written a certain way, maybe they want to write the notes out individually. So if you're not familiar with how to play a trill, you know, they show you how to do it. But that's, yeah, keep learning. Buy something new. Learn how to play it. Not a drum. World's full of drum. Oh, that's another thing. As new band teachers, if you have the opportunity, really push your 5th graders to learn a wind instrument of some type. For those that can't hear the partials on a trumpet or a trombone, because on a trombone you can play, well, yeah, I got a couple of minutes. It's easier on a trumpet. On a trumpet, with no vowels pushed down, C, G, C, E, G. Yeah, not today. And from there goes to B natural to high C. Anyway, if you can't hear the difference between and you got no business playing the trumpet. And there are kids that can't hear it, or they say they can't. All right, put them on a clarinet, put them on a saxophone. A combination of keys only produces one sound. Don't give them a flute because they'll play the wrong octave. All right, But a saxophone or a clarinet, you push down a certain combination of fingers, you're going to get the same sound, more or less, every time. Right? But encourage your kids to pick up a wind instrument. If they can't hear the partials, give them a saxophone or a clarinet. If they aren't coordinated enough to play that, fine, they're a drummer.
They're a drummer.
Yep.
I like that correlation. Like, you're a drummer now because you can do that with Scotch.
You're a drummer, by golly. Here. Yes. More cowbell. And okay, so keep playing too. Don't stop playing or singing. Get involved in a choir somewhere or learn to play an instrument. It's more fun. And if you get phlegm, it's no big deal. You can still play. How many other is everybody else here instrumental? What do you play? That's not band.
Oh,
it
I
can
heard
be?
instrumental, I'm sorry.
Oh, okay, no.
Yeah.
You play piano, really?
So I'm going for your
Oh man, I wish I could do that.
Just try.
I did. I took lessons for 6 months. I was going to be a band director, you see, before I couldn't afford college and joined the Army. So I took piano lessons and found out there is a great divide fixed between my left and my right hands
Yeah.
that shall not be bridged. It does not go away.
It's still very stupid.
Right? Okay. So, and you guys play in the band. Alto. Okay. Clarinet. Yeah. So who was? Well, Mackenzie. Yeah. Veronica plays clarinet too. Yeah. Okay. And you play? You play the radio.
Play the radio. Well, if you say it like that.
Oh, cool.
So
Okay, but especially you guys that are vocal majors, you do, or even piano, you're not familiar with an instrument. Clarinet players, sax players, they'll be able to relate to the kids and tell them about their instrument. Trombone player, you can talk about trombone and a lot of other brass things. You guys can talk about your instruments to your kids, and you can sort of fake it with the other stuff, right?
Yeah.
But if you haven't played an instrument to start with, it's difficult. So, you know, just know that I'm. That's good. I like that. So anyway, I got nothing else. If you want my number, it's right here. Just get it off a piece of paper there. And are you guys playing municipal band this year? Good, because we're having our board meeting next Sunday. Yeah, the 7th. And we're going to get things lined up for this next season. It's going to be great. So, you know, my wife then, she conducted half a concert last year.
Oh, yeah. It was a split concert with Miss Johnson, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's exactly right. And she made me bring the bubble machine. Okay, so we have grandsons and a granddaughter now. She's in Virginia. Yeah, we got 6 grandkids. My wife was at Dollar General, found a $12 bubble generator. You dump in a whole thing and man, does it make bubbles. So we played with it. She was getting ready to conduct a concert. She was going to do Blue Tango. I said, wouldn't it be cool if we had the bubble machine going during Blue Tango? Yeah, we did. And coming up out of the band shell, all these bubbles, we looked like Lawrence Welk or somebody. So anyway, but that's my wife. Yeah, that's Deanna. So, and she plays bass clarinet.
Yeah, she's killer.
She is. And she can cook too. Oh man, she made some kickin' chicken bacon potato soup the other night. It was incredible. Yeah, yeah. Okay, if you know where Dighton is, you're bound to find the frigid cream. I live in the red brick house behind the frigid cream. Ring the doorbell. Come on in.
You know, Kevin Johnson.
Oh, yeah, all of them. I played brass quintet with them.
Oh, yep.
Well, just a couple of times, because normally Bill and home plays.
Really got it.